The History of the Maya, written and recorded by Zachary Lundgren. Before we get going on the history of the Maya, I think it would be wise to review a brief timeline of the civilization. Overall, it is divided into 5 periods: the Archaic, the Pre-Classic, the Classic, the Post-Classic, and the Contact period. The first is the Archaic period, which lasts from 8000 all the way to 2000 BCE. Next comes the Pre-Classic. This is a time where the Maya really get going. It is divided into 3 parts: the early, the middle, and the late Pre-Classic, and overall lasts from between 2000 BCE to 250 CE. After that is the Classic period, the golden age of the Maya. This period is divided into the early, late, and terminal Classic periods, overall lasting from 250 to 950 CE. During the later years of the Classic period, the Mayans began to experience a decline, which transitions them into the Post-Classic period. This period lasts from 950 CE to 1539 CE and is divided into the early and late Post-Classic periods. Last is the Contact period, which exists entirely during the Spanish conquest of the region. This period lasts from roughly 1511 to 1697. The origins of the Maya, archaeological and anthropological. I can hazard a guess that you have probably heard of the Maya, especially if you live in the United States, Mexico, or any other country in the quote, New World. When thinking of the Maya, you probably picture vast jungles, large stone pyramids, vibrant art, and a calendar which gave us all panic back in 2012. However, this is the Classic era Mayans, which I will cover in a later slide. Here and now, I will be covering just exactly how the Maya originated. As with most ancient civilizations, we don't have the 100% full clear picture on how they originated, but archaeological and anthropological theories support the idea that the Mayans, like the other indigenous populations of the Americas, traversed into this hemisphere roughly 10 to 20,000 years ago during the Pleistocene Ice Age, where the strait between Siberia and Alaska formed a land bridge. Over this period, they followed the megafauna of the time south, hunting giant sloths, camels, mastodons, bison, and mammoths. We don't exactly know who the common ancestors of the Maya were, but archaeological evidence suggests that the first people to become Mayans settled in northwestern Guatemala in roughly 2600 BCE. During this time, the populations were hunter-gatherers, who began to dabble in agriculture and domestication, cultivating plants such as beans and maize, and domesticating animals such as turkeys and dogs. By the end of this period, the Archaic period, lasting from 7000 to 2000 BCE, the first villages were established in the region, and the sacred spots and temples devoted to a wide range of gods began to appear. The origins of the Maya, the Popol Vuh. Sometimes it can be rather challenging to figure out just exactly how a powerful civilization arose in the first place. In this case, the mythological creation stories can be just as illuminating as the hard archaeological data. These stories are sacred to these cultures and civilizations, and have shaped their way of life. So, to form a more holistic picture of the Maya's origins, it is only proper to analyze both the archaeological and the cultural. The Mayan creation stories revolve around the Popol Vuh. This collection of stories, roughly translated to the Book of the Community, shares with readers or listeners the creation of the Mayan civilization. In the accounts, the creators, including Feathered Serpent, Heart of Sky, as well as other deities, attempted to create beings to, quote, keep the days, aka honor them and remember their names. The many succeeding attempts fail, until they were able to create individuals from yellow and white corn. The beings could finally talk, and the deities were satisfied. Another major part of the story involves the hero twins. In this story, the Death Lords, deities of the underworld, summon the 2 hero twins to compete in a ball game where the twins are victorious. After this win, they ascend to the heavens, becoming the sun and the moon. These actions allowed humans back on Earth to plant corn, an essential aspect of Mayan survival. The Preclassic period. This is really the period where the Maya developed from a Neolithic society into the expansive culture we know them as today. Most notably, this period saw the development of writing, cities, states, and large-scale architecture intended for ceremonial uses. Overall, notable and distinctive elements of the Maya culture can be traced to this period in history. These facets of culture and society include the dominance of corn-based agriculture, the construction of pyramids, human sacrifice, the appearance of notable gods and deities, as well as the well-known Mayan calendar. Throughout the region, urban life and intersocietal trade began to flourish. With the advancements of agriculture, initiated likely in the Petén in Guatemala in roughly 2000 BCE, luxury goods could start being produced. By 1000 BCE, goods such as jade mosaics, obsidian mirrors, as well as a wide range of pottery were being produced and traded with nearby cultures such as the Olmec. Throughout the region, the art of agriculture also expanded its scale, with large irrigation programs taking place. In urban areas, villages and towns began to construct large communal architecture, such as central plazas and earthen mounds. A notable example of this trend is found in the site of La Blanca, which features a more than 75-foot-tall central mound. The existence of these large communal plazas and architectural feats strongly suggests the development of a more in-depth religious practices, along with a hierarchical social structure. Along with progress and developments came warfare. It is hypothesized that during this period, warfare also developed throughout the region. This is backed up with evidence, including the developments of more advanced weaponry, the increased presence of mass graves and decapitated skeletons, and most notably, rulers being depicted as warriors in Mayan art. By the end of the Preclassic period, Maya populations had ballooned much beyond the numbers which the period started off with. This led to the consistent development of larger community settlements, more intensive agriculture, and an increased necessity for land, often settled through conflict. In the late Preclassic period, the region witnessed the rise of two primary states, Kamanal-Huyu and El Mirador. These cities are shining examples of the artistic and architectural prowess which the Maya would be known for entering the succeeding Classic period. However, all good things must come to an end. By the end of the Preclassic period, in 250 CE, the major cities of the region were all but abandoned. Kamanal-Huyu and El Mirador collapsed in around 100 CE. While many theories have been circulated around why exactly Maya's urban centers collapsed, there is no widespread consensus, and the decline remains a mystery. However, the Maya were not truly gone. They would later return for another golden era of their history, the Classic period. The Classic period. Ranging from 250 to 900 CE, the Classic period is widely considered to be the pinnacle of the Mayan civilization. Overall, this time period is defined by the advancements of many core aspects of Mayan culture, such as the further developments of their calendrical system, polychrome ceramics, and increasingly large-scale public architecture, including stone pyramids, ball courts, and palaces. During this period, the Maya elites also placed an emphasis on the importance of scholars who carefully observed the stars and collected astronomical data. These observations would lead not just to spiritual clarity, but also to the development of advanced mathematics. These careful observations would serve as an integral part of Mayan spirituality and greater culture during this period. These calculations would frequently determine where monuments were built, as well as their orientation, and when festivals or rituals would be performed. While the exact division of the periods may vary, overall, the Classic period is divided into 2 or 3 primary subperiods, the early and the late/terminal. These periods are separated by the hiatus, a block of time known for a sharp decrease of new construction and the lack of dated monuments. an architectural fixture native to the classic period Maya. Most notably, this decrease took place in the power center of Tikal and the surrounding central Mayan lowlands. It is theorized that this decline was caused by Tikal's involvement in an increased number of ineffective military campaigns, both offensive and defensive. The end of the classic period would witness yet another collapse, just like the previous pre-classic. From between the 8th and the 9th centuries CE, the major cities of the southern Maya lowlands would be abandoned. This chapter of the classic period is often referred to as the terminal classic, a branch of the later classic period, all within the greater classic period. While the exact rationale behind the collapse is unknown, much like the pre-classic collapse, it is theorized that the decline was caused, or at least accelerated, by the collapse of the Maya's trading system. During this time, the Maya participated in an intricate trading network which spanned all the way throughout the region, involving a diverse range of powers and cultures both within Mesoamerica as well as outside. Unfortunately, there is no universal theory surrounding the classic period Mayan collapse. Over the years, there have been many hypotheses, but honestly, this is still widely considered to be one of the greatest mysteries of archaeology. The post-classic and contact periods. Well, the Mayans would return once again for a final act in the post-classic period. The concluding chapter of Mayan history has been routinely described as, quote, militaristic, decadent, and a degenerate phase of Mayan history, according to a source used in this presentation. However, it must be stated that many of the accounts from this period are derived from Spanish records during the contact and conquest of the region. Overall, negative assumptions of the period have hindered widespread archaeological research, which in turn provided little evidence to overturn the negative bias of the original accounts from the time. Recent findings, most notably from Santa Rica in northern Belize, suggest that there is continuity between the classic and post-classic periods, dispelling the rumors of a, quote, empire in decline. During the post-classic period, dated from 900 to 1600 CE, the powers that be in Mayan society relocated from the traditional sphere of influence found in the central lowlands to the northern peninsula. Most likely, populations were searching for a reliable source of water, just another one of the theories for the second Maya collapse in the earlier classic period. Many of the northern lowland Yucatan sites also continued to flourish during the post-classic period, most notably Chichen Itza, Uxmal, Koba, and Edzna. As well as the sites fared during the period, though, the large metropolises of the classic period were no more. During this era, population centers were dispersed, with their original locations more relative to sources of drinking water. These settlements were often situated around palaces for the ruling elite, as well as spiritual temples, a fixture of Mayan urban design throughout their history. However, the architectural focus on elite residences at the core of a settlement was also social. If a ruling court fell out of favor, such as in documented cases in Piedras Negras or Copan, the surrounding population centers would also seemingly disappear. During this period, many ruling dynasties suffered declines, including the rulers of Chichen Itza and Uxmal. After this decline, until about 1450 CE, Mayapan would serve as the most important cultural center of Mayan civilization. The end of the post-classic period would see one of the most notable moments in all of history, the discovery of the New World by the Spanish. During this time, the Mayans had no singular cultural center. The region was ruled by a collection of small city-states, which the Spanish needed to conquer individually. Some were conquered easily, while others mounted difficult resistances. Throughout the contact period, the Spanish would be entranced by the myths of gold in the Yucatan, which motivated their conquests. Simultaneously, European diseases introduced to the New World proved fatal to the indigenous populations, weakening their numbers. Along with disease and conquest, the Spanish government and the Catholic Church were responsible for the destruction of almost all Mayan texts, which limits our understanding and our knowledge of the post-classic period even further. Today, Only 3 pre-Columbian Mayan books survive: the Madrid Codex, the Dresden Codex, and the Paris Codex. The final independent Mayan states, Tayasal and Zacpeten, would continue to fight all the way until 1697. Thank you for watching.